Good morning. My name is John Konarski. I'm the Executive Director of the American Geographical Society. On behalf of AGS, our council, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our annual fall symposium. I want to start the day off by talking about the first word in the title of our symposium, that is geography. There are two things I'd like you to think about as we go through the next 2 days and how AGS fits into this issue of geography, urban, where do we come and where do we play in? Two things I want to leave you with. We tend to look at geography from a very broad perspective, an inclusive definition, a definition that allows people to do things like we're doing today, to talk about the specific topic of urbanism. I think that geography pertains to so many different areas that we could spend the next 50 years and never have to repeat it twice. So the first thing is we look at geography from this general perspective. The second thing is the place of AGS. AGS is the only organization that really brings together academia, business, not-for-profit, government, and the general public. If I were to show you the registration list from today, you would see that the room is pretty much evenly divided among these groups. And that's a very unusual thing. I think for many of you who are academics, you're used to going to academic conferences where you know everybody. The same with government conferences, and there certainly are many business conferences where you walk into the room and you can probably say you know at least 50% of the people. I doubt anybody here knows everybody here. We have people from all different walks of life. So I think that as we go through this, if you would consider that over the next 2 days, I think that you'll be able to see where AGS fits in all of this. When we think about the word geography, a lot of us who haven't had formal geographic training tend to think of geography as being that little subject that maybe when we went to college, we took a course in the College of Arts and Sciences. Geography is really much broader than that. If we go back in history, even the definitions of geography indicate to us that geography is very broad-based and very inclusive. Even up to President Obama, the idea of geography is one that pertains to many different subject areas. And that's why we really believe that geography is everywhere. I want to use the example of a university to kind of expand on this idea of what geography means. If we go around to a university, we go to the School of Natural Sciences, you see geography or geographic tools used in virtually all of the subject areas of that school. Geology, biology, chemistry, all of these have very, very strong connections to the discipline. We look at the School of Social Sciences, economics, demographics, of course. How can you even think about demographics without thinking about a map? A School of Medicine, epidemiology, toxology, international development, looking at world health. The School of Fine Arts, urban design, architecture, landscape design. The School of Engineering, remote sensing, satellites, mechanics construction. And even the administration of a university, if they're dealing with their international programs, student diversity, facility planning, all rooted in geography. If we take this paradigm, this example, and we expand it out into a fictional city, I tried to put it into this kind of a context just because we're dealing with urbanism, we find that this is where we bring together all of these different groups that we have. So we look at business, the supply chain, all completely tied up with geography, environmental consulting, retail planning. In fact, that's how I came into all of this. I used to be on the retail end, and I was told, I have no formal geographic training at all, and I was told that in our business, and this was in the 90s when we were expanding and building stores all over the country, that the people who decided where all these things were going were geographers. And so that's how I came into AGS as a council member, because all of the people in making shopping centers and making retail stores were geographers. Construction design, and agriculture. Now, I know I'm stretching this just a bit. Where does agriculture have to do with the city? But in fact, we're going to be hearing from a man later on today that's going to show that this is one of the fastest growing areas of agriculture right now. And commercial planning. Again, remember, I have no formal geographic training, so I'm very enthusiastic about what you can do with this. So on the left-hand side here is a density map of Manhattan and the surrounding areas. And then I love Dunkin' Donuts, and so what we did is we plotted where all the Dunkin' Donuts are as compared to the density. And for somebody who doesn't have geographic training, this is like the most amazing thing in the world that you can do. Remote sensing. Certainly all the stuff that we're reading about today, everything that's really exciting about the area right now deals with this area of remote sensing. So business, very clearly rooted in geography. Let's look at another of our stakeholders, not-for-profits. Mapping uncharted areas. I think a lot of you have heard about all of this on-site mapping that's going on and virtual mapping that many schools and universities are doing across the country. Disaster relief. You can't even think about disaster relief without having some idea of geography. Wildlife conservation. Environmental protection. Community building and social services. So the not-for-profit world, very, very steeped in geography. Of course, government, and the census, I think all of you would recognize. Zoning, law enforcement, national and state park administrations, foreign policy, and of course, national security and terrorism. So the government is very well represented. And the general public, in our pop culture and everyday life, so much of everything we're doing has to do with geography. And when we talk with people about this, you know, in the Middle Ages, when we thought of geographers used sextants and these kind of very specified tools, and they were the only ones who used them, and that was the root of the geography. I think that you have to admit that almost everybody is a geographer if we take this broad inclusion, because who is not dealing right now with looking for directions? I mean, everybody who's above the age of 2 has got some sort of an application on their phones or whatever looking for directions. So you can find directions and send them. You can use apps to find walking routes, searching for restaurants, not only searching where they are, but you can actually go in and find out what they are, how they're rated. You can let people know, now it's not just what route to take, but in real time you can say if there's an accident there or there's something going on, you can find this information out. You can use maritime navigation and mapping apps. And the thing that I find most amazing about this is in our office, of course, we're kind of charting what's going on in this area. And every single day, there's a new app or a new tool coming out that can help you with this, that is not marketed towards professional geographers, but is marketed towards the general public. Even retail stores. A huge part of the whole decoration, and this is part of our culture today, retail stores, maps and globes, all the major names. Restoration Hardware, their #1 decoration thing today are maps, old maps that they reproduce and they sell to their clients. And of course, for all of us, we know that geotools have revolutionized the way that we travel. Geography games. We've gone from the traditional games like Monopoly and Risk into all of these video games. My son uses a video game where he's killing many people all the time. And in the top left-hand side of the screen, there's a map. And it shows him where he is compared to his buddies and where the enemy is. And my son is learning about maps, and he doesn't really even know this. And of course, in the media. This past summer, when we had the prison escape in New York, every single newscast you saw showed a map of where these 2 prisoners were, where they went to, where they were caught. It was all done through geography. Right now, this is near the anniversary of Hurricane Sandy, and so there's a lot of press up here about what went on, what's going on, and again, all of them showing the maps. ISIS activity, and of course, most recently, what happened last weekend. Every single newscast you saw showed the 6 points in Paris on a map where the terrorism occurred. So all of our people that we bring together, the government, the business, not-for-profits, academia, they all come together to deal with geography. But beyond them, there are topics that actually deal with all of our stakeholders. Climate change, biodiversity loss, global warming, drought, sea level rise, crimes against humanity, genocide, war, human trafficking, geographic border issues, including poaching, illegal trade, disease, refugees, physical border disputes, and finally, geographic literacy, conflict, far-reaching decisions, education. So all of these things come together. The big issues, the stakeholders, and this is really where AGS fits in. AGS has a very rich history, starting off with the Franklin expedition in the 1850s. That's how we got started. We moved on to Arctic exploration and polar research. One of the things that we led the world in was Arctic exploration. The Transcontinental Railroads, the person who was in my position when President Wilson was the president actually wrote his 14 points for him. Cartography during the World Wars, our Around the World series, which has been a publication that has really literally gone around the world and we used extensively when it was being published, and more recently with our globe signings. And so today, AGS is involved at symposiums and conferences like you're here today, exploration expeditions, endorsements, research, our library in Milwaukee, our company nonprofit spotlights, internships, educational support and scholarships, and our social media outreach. So I just want to leave you today with, for us, geography is everywhere, and AGS is geography. Thank you.